So, we're finally here. Avengers Endgame is the most anticipated movie of the year, if not of all time. Both this and last year's Infinity War were the two films that the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe had been building toward, ever since they teased Thanos back in the mid-credits scene from the Avengers 7 years ago. 7 years, bloody hell. Since then, Marvel's fanbase and universe of movies has grown exponentially, eventually culminating in both Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, arguably the most ambitious and largest crossover event and film event of all time. And now it's here. Marvel Cinematic Universe movie number 22, Avengers 3.5, Infinity War Part 4 of 2. Better known as Avengers Endgame has finally arrived. It's time to review it.
Whatever it takes.
Okay, before I get into this, I'm going to keep this review spoiler free, but I'll discuss spoilers after I give my rating for the movie. There'll be plenty of warnings, so if you haven't seen Endgame yet, nothing will be ruined. That said, if you want to go into Endgame completely blind, then don't watch any of this review, because I'll be talking about some general plot points that have already been revealed in the trailers. Alright, so this is one of the most anticipated movies of all time, and the most excited I've ever been for any movie. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been going for 11 years now, and it's all been leading up to this. Nearly every hero from the other MCU movies are in this film that serves as a sequel to 21 other movies, which is pretty insane. Some people are probably going to disagree with me heavily on this, but I'm pretty confident saying that there has never been a film in my lifetime that has been as culturally impactful as Avengers Infinity War. I have never seen this much discussion about a film since its release, and the hype for the sequel seems to have been on everyone's minds for the past year. So now that Avengers Endgame is finally here, did it live up to the hype? I don't really know. Overall, I really liked Avengers Endgame, but I didn't love it. This film is a lot. Some of it I absolutely loved, and there was some other stuff that I didn't love. That said, I really only had about 2 major complaints with the film, but those complaints really hindered my enjoyment of it at points. I think these complaints won't bother me as much when I rewatch the film, but for now, yeah, it's something that I have a problem with. Okay, let's start off with the positives. There's really not a lot to say here without spoiling anything, so I'll keep this rather brief. I really liked it when this movie got dark, and when it got really dark. I liked the directions where most of the characters were taken. All the effects in this were incredible. There wasn't anything that looked fake. Sometimes I couldn't even tell if some things were practical or CGI, and it was all really impressive. There were some incredible action scenes. One in particular was honestly phenomenal, and if you've seen the film, you know exactly which scene I'm talking about. There's also some great fan service moments. Some of it felt like it went just a bit too far in that department, but I'd say 90% of the time it worked, and a lot of it made the audience who I was with clap and cheer, which is rare for an Australian audience to do. This film also had real stakes and consequences, and without spoiling anything, you felt the gravitas of a lot of the situations that the characters were in. And honestly, it made me feel uncomfortable at points, which in those moments is how I was supposed to feel. Also, the last hour of this, without spoiling anything, was perfect. And as an MCU fan, it felt really rewarding to see. And that's all I'll say about that. As for the negatives, my 2 main complaints are the pacing and the tone, / how a certain character, who I won't name, was handled. First, the pacing is just all over the place, and at points makes this film feel kinda messy. It jumps from very comedic scenes to very serious scenes, and sometimes it just feels really jarring. The tone is also very inconsistent. I had a similar issue with Infinity War, but I found it to be a much bigger issue here. I can't remember if I talked about this in my review, but when I rewatched Infinity War, a lot of the comedic scenes stuck out as a sore thumb. I still found most of those parts funny, except for the part where Peter Quill is trying to copy Thor's voice. That joke was pretty lame. And here, there's a lot of comedy that falls flat, especially some of the jokes surrounding one specific character, which I wish would have been handled more seriously. This might not be as big of a deal when I rewatch it. I thought Guardians 2 was painfully unfunny the first time I saw it, but it really didn't bother me at all the other times I watched it. So who knows? Maybe in a week I won't have any of these issues. I don't know. Overall, Avengers Endgame was a very enjoyable movie, especially for hardcore MCU fans. Although I'm a bit iffy on it now, I have a feeling it'll grow on me over time, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it again as soon as I can. I'm gonna give Avengers Endgame an 8.4 out of 10. And here's where it would fall in my ranking with the other MCU movies. My opinion will undoubtedly change over time, but that's where it's at for now. Alright, now I'm gonna go into spoilers, so if for whatever reason you haven't seen Avengers Endgame yet, click off this video in a 5, 4, 3, 2... Hulk dabs! Okay, so I'm just gonna go through the plot of this movie, starting with the opening scene with Clint's family getting snapped. That was actually done in a way where even though you knew it was going to happen, it still managed to be really heartbreaking and uncomfortable to watch. I also really liked the way they took Hawkeye, or Ronan, as a character. It seemed like a very natural progression of this character from where he was in Age of Ultron to Civil War and now this. Also, the scene in Tokyo was pretty badass. It's pretty impressive that the Russo brothers took Hawkeye of all characters and made them a badass. Then we get Captain Marvel saving Tony, which I'm sure pissed plenty of people off, but I thought it made a lot of sense for this. I like how they don't even show the audience Carol meeting the Avengers. It's just expected that you've seen Captain Marvel, or more specifically the end credit scene. I have a bit of a theory that maybe that scene was originally included, but taken out once Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. That's probably why the film was confirmed to be 3 hours and 2 minutes long, but then changed to 3 hours and 1 minute. But hey, that's just a theory. Anyway, the scene with Tony back on Earth arguing with Cap was really uncomfortable to watch. Especially when it ended with Tony just collapsing due to starvation. Didn't expect to see that in a Marvel movie. Then the movie took a really surprising turn, with the Avengers finding Thanos with the Infinity Stones destroyed, and then Thor just cuts off Thanos' head. It was very unexpected, but made a lot of sense from a story perspective since Thanos' character arc was done. And after Thanos' death, I just had no idea where this movie was gonna go. Then they do the 5-year time jump, and we see a bit of the world post-snap, which was pretty cool. Ant-Man gets saved by a rat, which gets me thinking maybe the 14 million other timelines Doctor Strange saw were all just the same, just without the rat. Tony Stark has a daughter now and lives by a lake, which is what he said he wanted to do in Infinity War, so that's pretty cool.
Last night, I dreamt we had a kid. So real. We named him after your eccentric uncle. What was his name?
Right.
Morgan.
Hulk is now Professor Hulk, which was interesting to see. Glad they didn't go with the design from the leaked promo art, and instead just went with Hulk's normal design with glasses and Banner's normal voice, which surprisingly worked and managed to not feel weird. Then when they start testing out the time travel, we got the joke with Ant-Man turning into a kid, and then an old man, and then a baby, which really wasn't that funny and kind of went on for a bit long. Then we have Thor, and I'm very mixed on how his character was handled in this. On one hand, it makes sense, he's over 1,000 years old, and in only a few short years, everyone important to him has either left him or died. It absolutely makes sense that he's just completely overcome with grief, and then deals with that in a way that's really unhealthy. But on the other hand, his character was treated like a complete joke. It felt like the Russo brothers wanted to recapture the kind of humor that Taika Waititi put in Thor Ragnarok, but just pushed it a bit too far. I don't know, maybe it was just a Fortnite joke that did it for me. Then we get the time travel segment, and this is where the film basically becomes Back to the Future 2. And it's also where the pacing made the film feel like a mess. It was just jumping around from all these scenes from different planets and time periods, and they all felt very disconnected. That said, there was plenty of stuff in this segment that I really liked. We see the Ancient One again, which was great. More Tilda Swinton is a plus. There's the Hail Hydra moment, which was pretty funny. And the Captain America vs. Captain America fight, which I also really enjoyed. Also, in one of the alternate timelines, Loki escaped with the Tesseract, which could be what the Loki show is about. We get the scene with Tony interacting with his dad, which was a pretty nice scene. And then we get Thanos from back in time as the main antagonist, with two nebulas, which was an interesting element, and it showed how much she changed over the course of these movies. Black Widow dies in this, which I honestly wasn't expecting at all, especially considering she has a movie coming out next year. But yeah, during that scene I was 100% expecting Hawkeye to die. But my expectations were subverted, and I like how that scene was done. Had the same music and was shot the same way as Gamora's death, except in this one we see Clint and Natasha trying to sacrifice themselves to save one another because they actually do love each other, unlike how Thanos thinks he loves Gamora. Then we get Hulk snapping everyone back to life, and it really ruined his right arm. Hulk will never dab again. And the scene where everyone comes back to life off screen was really well done. Since it was off screen, we don't even know that it actually worked until we see the person calling Hawkeye is his wife. That scene was done in a way that was quiet and somber, and I really wasn't expecting that. Then we have Thanos destroying the Avengers HQ, we get the main Trinity fighting Thanos, which was a really great fight scene. There's also Steve wielding Thor's hammer, which was a pretty cool moment, and it made the audience I was with go absolutely crazy. Then we get the portals scene, and I'll admit it, it's the best scene in the MCU. It just felt so rewarding to see all the MCU heroes together in one shot while Cap finally says Avengers Assemble. Even Howard the Duck was there. And then the whole battle was really entertaining. Then we have Tony stealing the Infinity Stones and snapping Thanos and his Chitauri army, which was very satisfying to see since they have been haunting him ever since the events of the Avengers. Also, we don't see what happened to 2014 Gamora. I don't think Tony snapped her, so I guess she's just somewhere on Earth somewhere. Anyway, Tony Stark's death and funeral was also very well done and emotional. I didn't cry or anything, but you know, that's only because I have no soul. Thor joins the Guardians, which I'm pretty excited to see. My favourite scene from Infinity War, believe it or not, was the conversation between Thor and Rocket. So hopefully we get more scenes like that in Guardians 3. Directed by James Gunn, baby. And finally, Steve gets his long overdue happy ending. Some people have complained that Steve is selfish for taking away Peggy's already established marriage, or complained that it's a time travel plot hole because he should be in an alternate universe. Explanation for both: the MCU is that alternate universe where Steve married Peggy. We never found out who Peggy's husband was, that's because it was Steve all along. So then we get Steve passing the shield to Sam, so now he's the new Captain America. And no, it shouldn't be Bucky, because like Steve, he's just done fighting. I mean, until he's not. Anyway, that's what I thought about Avengers Endgame. Thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. If you want, you can follow me on Twitter, @SinMeGeekYT. Leave a like, and subscribe for more videos like this one.